What is up, YouTube? XLCH back up in the air again. Not for anything bad this time, but went through, cleaned out the carb. The float should not be sticking anymore. I haven't run gas through it, so I don't know for sure, but did the air test in the last video, worked fine, so that's good. Kicker stuff is back on. Well, kicker didn't have to come off, but the exhaust is back on with the T-bolt clamp. Super tight in here now. Rock solid on that one. I still need to replace this front one, which I might do today, because the goal for the day is not actually firing this up. That might make it at the tail end of this video, but I've been putting off a bunch of little odds and ends on this for quite a while. I'm much more confident now. I know that the motor runs outside of the paper towel being in there. I know that the carb should be roughly gone through. Not the final carb, but that I don't mind adjusting and changing down the line. I want to get this done, so when I have it hooked up, I'm going to fire it on the mini gas bottle first, just so I don't mess up the tank or anything like that. Get it running. Once it's running well on the ground, I want to be able to ride this. So even if I run it on the little bottle, that could get a little sketchy because I don't know how well these fuel lines are mounted or fixed. But I'd like to just putz it around the block. So I'm going to try and save the first start video to try and do all of that in one. But tonight's little finishing tasks, if you will, outside of dress up parts like the battery cover, things like that. The coil obviously has to go back in before we can take this anywhere for a ride. That gets mounted on the same bracket as the gas tank, so that will stay and wait a little bit. But everything else, I want to get locked down. So I want to get the brake lever fully tightened down. I want to tighten up these pegs that have been sitting here dangling for a little bit. And I have all of the new parts for the shocks and bushings. I'm running the ones that I had laying around. They're worn out and dead. Lots of free play here. Lots of free play here. And I lost a little cup washer. So basically this shock could slide itself right through there because all of these bushings are so worn out. I have all of that, so I'm going to start messing around with trying to get this thing solidified. And the only other major important one is actually on the front neck. I don't have the pinch bolt on the upper triple tree. Anything going wrong in this region would not be fun, so make sure you give everything a full look over before you actually plan to ride it. Make sure you give it a full look over before you go to fire it up. Don't do what I did. Anyways, I'm going to be kind of bouncing around back and forth. I'll turn you guys on when I get to a point that needs any sort of explanation. But right now I just took off the one bolt for the passenger, or the right side peg. I don't know why I said passenger. There's no, it's left or right. But the right side foot peg needs a fine thread 1/4-20. I need to put a washer on there, and I need to use a 1/4-inch socket because a 3/8 drive socket is too big to clear the actual machine section of the foot peg. So swap those out first. I'm going to start with the foot pegs, then move on to the brake. And then we'll address the shocks if there's enough time. I don't know how much time I got tonight because it is getting much later than I anticipated, and work has been a pain. So that's where we're at. Okay, so here's the issue I'm running into. One, I need to pull this exhaust off in order to adjust this foot peg. I like the position of this peg right where it's at, so I'm going to try and get this locked in first. So hopefully you guys can see this. It's right in between the pipe, and the pipe is actually in the way of this. But we'll grab our 1/4-inch wrench with a washer now on this. That should give me a little bit more headroom. Grab the bolt. Can't get a drill underneath here either. But hopefully we can get this to snug down the way it's supposed to. There we go. No more floppy peg. Well, the peg part itself is floppy, but no more floppy mount. I can deal with a floppy peg, cannot deal with a floppy mount. This is just like that because I never tightened down these foot pegs. So we'll do that right now while we're at it. And it's fresh in my head. But there we have it. No more floppy flop. Yay! Now let's move on to the other side. The other side's a little bit more of a chore because the brake lever is in the way. And the brake lever sucks to tighten down on this. So let's grab a couple tools, take a quick field trip. I'm going to try and snug down the peg. I am not necessarily going to mess around with the brake yet. This might be easier to get to on the ground, just with the kickstand and the stupid iron head frame design. I got the scissor jack on the edge of the frame rail around the exhaust mount. Reason number 1905 why I switched over to big twins. Oh well, we're doing sporty stuff. Okay, this one's a little bit different. On the other one, I just had to snug this down. On this one, I wanted to run a thread chaser through here because these don't feel that good. And hopefully, on this side at least, I have enough room to get it out when you push the brake lever down. Also, don't have the nut on the foot peg. Living on the edge. I'm going to run the thread file through here, or the thread chaser through this real quick. Make sure this is good to go. Grab a fresh bolt and re-jam this back on here. Give me just a minute. This is a thread chaser, not a tap. Thread chaser. I've said this in other videos. I swear by these things. They come in a whole kit. Buried over here. It's got the male and females, but this will essentially clear up any of the sand or sometimes powder residue if we forget to mask something. In this case, just run this right through. And I didn't plug the outside because I knew the bolt threaded in from this hole, but now there's some sand and extra crap in here that I want to get out. So I'm going to go down as far as I can on this. Obviously it's going to bottom out, and then I'm going to run this back from the other side as well. That one I don't know how well this is going to work with a chaser, but we'll find out here in a second. Does not work that well. Let me countersink the edge of this real quick. Alright, we got that one all chased down. Push the brake lever down. Put this back. Actually, clean off a tiny bit of this tape residue on the primary because I won't have access to it afterwards. If you ever get parts freshly coated and there's a little bit of adhesive or glue on there, you don't necessarily want to use brake clean. Most of the time it works out just fine, but that naphtha stuff works really, really well for pulling that adhesive without marring or messing up the powder finish. If you were ever wondering, denatured alcohol also works pretty well. I tend to find that the naphtha stuff definitely works a little bit better than for removing the glue. Denatured alcohol is pretty powder safe as well, but it does actually tend to work a little bit slower in regards to the glue removal. Pegs are locked down. The only thing you got to watch for with how many fine teeth are on these peg mounts, make sure they line up alright so you're not banging on the primary either here on this side or on this side. We got a nice even gap all the way around, so that's good to go there. Let me throw a bolt on the foot peg before I forget. Looks like we got a little bit of an oil leak around the oil filter too, so I'm gonna have to snug this down a little bit more too. Onto the upper bolt. This should go right in now. Use the impact on that first and then just give it one little 1/8 to 1/4 turn. Like so. So now we got that all pinched in and pinched together. Much safer. Guess we can take a look at the shocks. I've been putting this one off since I had the bike. If I was smart, I would have replaced all the hardware here. I'm not smart, so that didn't happen. I'm doing one at a time, obviously. If you do both, you will run into issues in terms of this trying to fight and move on you. But we'll just lay this out exactly like it was, and then let me dig through some parts so you don't have to listen to plastic opening up. New chrome hardware. I did not get nuts though. That was foolish. And where did I take my bushings? Oh, you know what? I ordered bushings for this year. That's not going to work. So I'm going to run the crappy bushings, but I'm at least going to replace the hardware for now. I ordered 71, 72 shocks. These are not. Forgot I put the longer versions on here. So that means this part will go back together. Just like so. And maybe I'll do some like steel bushing sleeves or something in here in the meantime. Not right this second, obviously. So this is far from ideal, but will function for the time being. Now we don't have to worry about the shocks falling off. Go around and do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to replace the outer since I ordered the wrong bushings like a fool. Use 2 of these small diameter ones. So at least they'll look pretty at first glance until you actually look at the hardware. There we have it. That should be most of what I got. I still got to put fork oil in this too. It's the only thing I haven't done yet, but I think we're ready to come back down now. Exhaust. I already forgot. That's what happens. I'm not even drinking today. That's sad. Let me pop this exhaust off. Beat the crap out of this flange that's going to be stuck on, or the clamp that's going to be stuck on with a hammer, dead blow, and pop that off, and we'll come back once I get the T-bolt off. Exhaust is off, so that's good on the front. I forgot to mention, not that I'm going to knock them, because I literally paid, I don't know, 50, 60, 80 bucks for these pipes. Wyatt Gatling ones or Gatling ones. One, I didn't necessarily expect them to be a direct bolt-on. I hoped they were, but they weren't. Not that big of a deal. You got to make some clamps and bracketry. This is crude because we did this before the show, but chrome job, they looked awesome. I didn't expect them to hold up at all. However, that little bit of running blistered. So get what you pay for, kind of. Not that big of a deal. I've thought about doing a ceramic on here anyway, so we'll see what's going to happen with that one down the line, but just wanted to show you guys that. This is less than 5 minutes of running. I don't necessarily think it was because that cylinder got too hot. Maybe it was. We'll find out. Could have been my issue from when if that exhaust valve was hanging open and letting all that heat go right into the pipe. We'll see. Keep an eye on it and see what happens as we progress. On the actual pipe themselves, T-bolt clamp, I don't know exactly where this wants to be yet, so I just got it loosely on here. We're going to mock this right back up on this since everything is so tight here. I'm going to preemptively slide this through. No, there's room to get that in after. But I'll drop the pipe on first just to get onto the head flange. And then leave this kind of loose so we can adjust. Okay, then we need a nut and a bolt on the back side through here. Just didn't leave myself a ton of room down there. And the most important part of this build is going to be making sure that the kicker is still going to clear the pipe. Ooh, if I was kicking that would have hurt my knee pretty bad. As of right now, we have plenty of room. If that changes after I torque this down, we'll find out. I got the T-bolt clamp kinda on here. I'm going to snug this one down first, then come back to tighten the top. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, right before the camera dies. Pipe is hooked up, solid mounted. This clamp, no more wiggle. This is rock solid. This is what you want for your exhaust. Things will rattle. Ooh, should probably tighten down the forward control too, huh? Really missed the mark before this show, so I know the important stuff I did torque down. Well, I can't even say that. I messed up the head gasket. Most of the important frame and motor stuff I definitely Loctited and jammed back together. Some of the accessory stuff that was just kind of slap it together for the show might have overlooked. So we'll find all those now. Let me grab a wrench. We'll tighten down the foot peg. So on these, I'll use the actual peg itself as the leverage point. Alright. All better. That one's locked in. Can't get to that one, so that's fine for now. And there we go. At some point this upcoming weekend, I will 100% have this off the lift. So I think I'm good to drop this down. I'm not going to put the tank on yet, but I'll drop this down, get it on the ground. throw some fuel in it, make sure it's kicking over proper. We'll be back when we're ready to fire this thing up. Probably gonna be tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. I'll drop it off the lift, pour some gas in it. We'll see if she'll start. First start round 2. Does that make it second start, third start? First start after a new head gasket? No idea. Wish me luck.